All right, welcome everybody to the Mortgage Coach Tuesday interview. Every Tuesday, 9 o'clock Pacific, we are here to bring you inspiration, bring you ideas, and bring you strategies that are working in the market. I am super pumped for my interview today with Mr. Dale Vermillion. What's up, Dale?
Hey, Dave, how are you? Honored to be here. Thanks for asking me, man.
Yeah, well, thank you. I am really looking forward to this interview. It has been way too long. You've actually never done an interview in the mortgage coach community, so this is a first. And I will do a full introduction in just a minute, guys. I do want to remind folks, we had just a action-packed week in the mortgage coach community. On Friday, we interviewed Dan Rawidge. He gave his market predictions, and he just made an incredible case that interest rates are going to go into the twos. And we're talking, he said, 2 to 6 months. But I want to make sure you guys check out that update. And we can't run our business like rates are going to 2.5 or 2, but we need to run our business and plan that if they did, are we doing the right things? So make sure you check out that interview. Also, the interview I did with Dr. JJ Peterson with StoryBrand is just a very important interview. I want to make sure everybody checks out. And then just today, we got 2 huge gifts in the Mortgage Coach Facebook group. Kristen Messerly put in a 1-minute marketing video that's designed to help you guys connect with millennials and tell millennials how you can help them net it out, whether they should buy a house now. So check that out. It's in the Facebook group right now. It should be at the top. And then Rene Rodriguez and his film team created a super cool 2-minute Mortgage Coach testimonial video. That's also at the top. It got posted yesterday. Be sure to check that out. So Dale, this is something that we do every week, 9 o'clock Pacific. I started doing this coming out of the meltdown. I felt like there was not enough leadership in the industry. A lot of sales managers weren't even doing sales meetings. And the whole vision I had is every Tuesday, 9 o'clock, I'm going to interview someone amazing, someone that is the best, and try to put on the best sales meeting in the mortgage industry every Tuesday. So that was the goal then. That is still the goal. I think, I don't know how many people on this call know you and have heard you speak, but if you could, for anyone who hasn't heard you speak and doesn't know a little bit about your story, if you could just start with a little update on who you are.
Sure, I appreciate that, Dave. And again, just want to tell you, I'm honored to be here. What you've done with Mortgage Coach and the influence you have in the industry is powerful and awesome. And I want to thank you for that. I started in business in 1983, so I've got 37 years doing this, just a few years under my belt. Started as a loan officer in 1983. Actually was in the construction business, was standing on a scaffold one day, and the guy said, "You talk a lot, you ought to be in sales." I don't think it was a compliment, so I took him up on it. Became a loan officer in 1983, got promoted quickly to a branch manager, ran 3 different branches from 3 loan officers to 20. Then got promoted to a district manager when I was 25, ran a district in Chicago of about 250 loan officers. Did that for a couple of years, got promoted again to a regional vice president. I had about 400 loan officers in that role. And then my last corporate job back in 1993 to 95 was running Sears Consumer Finance out of Chicago. That was a mortgage company where we had almost 900 loan officers, 2,300 employees I was responsible for, and decided in 95 to move out of that and move into training and consulting. And in the last 25, this is actually our 25th year anniversary, actually, that I've been doing this. In 25 years, I've been able to work with, nearest we can count, about 600 lenders around the country. I've trained well over 1 million mortgage professionals in that period of time. The Lord's been very good in blessing us to be able to have an opportunity to work with a lot of people. And really what I focus on is kind of what you talked about, best of the best techniques based on the so many people that I've been around who are just super talented. I've also had a chance outside of that to write a book for consumers back in 2010 on just how to get a mortgage the right way. It was kind of a response to the mortgage meltdown. I had a publisher approach me and ask me to write a book, so I've done that. I do a lot of national radio programs around the country. Did one this morning for a thing called MoneyWise that I do very regularly. So that's kind of my background in a nutshell, and get to speak at a lot of conferences and do a lot of webinars and work with great guys like you.
Well, I really feel honored to have you in the community, and thank you for your service to our industry. I met you for the first time 21 years ago, and I can still remember things that I learned from you and things that you just affirmed, So 2 of the things that have just been pivotal in my career was, reaffirming the power of wow. And I remember, I
Yeah.
don't know if that's still part of your training, but I remember back in the day, it's just like, if you can surpass someone's expectations, you're going to win. Like if they could come to you wanting one thing and you blew them away with insight, it's like, wow, the power of wow. And then I'm pretty sure it was you that I learned the goal of just winning one borrower commitment a day. And if I recall, you used to say, do it by 10, you know, and you used to teach like how to stack and prioritize your leads. And I don't think I had ever heard that idea until you heard it. And I remembered I implemented it in my company. I implemented it myself. And bro, I mean, that just prioritizing all your leads to win by 10 is a complete game changer. So thank you for that, brother.
Well, it's funny. When I was a manager, literally, I would fire my loan officers if they would check email or voicemail before 11 o'clock. I wouldn't allow it because, well, like I told them all the time, there's nothing good in there. You know, you're going to start your day on a bad note. If you do that, I want you to get in the morning, get your leads prioritized, and sell. Just take that 2 hours and just crush it. When your attitude's the best, when you're most alert, that's the time to do it. Because if you get that sale by 10 or 11 o'clock, you've insured 15 loans a month. That's what it comes out to. One sale a day is going to get you to 21 deals a month in your pipeline. Typical 70% conversion rate, you're closing 15 loans.
Yeah, and if I recall, you even had a nuance, the way you would qualify your customers. You had like these 3 stages, and it wasn't just like who was qualified. It was like, who's going to give you energy to talk to? So you may have this killer A deal on paper, but the guy is just a grinder. No, we're not going to start our day with that guy. We're going to put him 5th on the list, and we're going to start with good leads who are cool people, and then we're going to work our way down. Now, is it 10 or is it 11 that you teach and train?
11 o'clock is typically, you know, I assume that loan officers, I always tell them, get in by 8:45, get your priority set by 9 o'clock. Make sure that you've got your attitude right. Make sure you've got your leads set up right. Make sure that you're putting yourself in front of the very best leads first, because, you know, sales is all about momentum. If you start your day with success, you're going to have a Midas touch day. If you start your day with failure, you're spending the entire day trying to reel out of that, and you don't want to do that. So, you know, 8:45 to 9, prioritize, plan, prepare. 9 o'clock to 11, hammer the phones. And warm up before you ever make a phone call. That's such an important tip in the mortgage industry that people just don't do. Look, I was an athlete when I was young. I couldn't hit a curveball. That's why I'm doing this instead of doing that. Got a chance to play semi-pro ball, and that was the end of my career because of the curveball. But I did learn one thing for sure in sports my whole life, and that is, if you don't prepare yourself, you're not going to be successful. So you really should start your day. Don't make your first call to a live customer your first call, because you're going to blow it. You're not going to be prepared for that, and now you spiral. Instead, get a colleague, practice for 5 or 10 minutes, make sure you warm everything up, and then bam, you are killer when you get on the phone.
Love, love, love that, brother. And so guys, we're 8 minutes into this. We could stop this call right now. And if everybody, did this yourself, make sure you are prospecting from 9 to 11. And we've done a lot of calls on the magic of that, but sort your leads so that you're winning first. If we just did that, and if you were a leader and you manage other loan officers, you started managing that, like, game over. So someone just said, great session. Can this recording be emailed to participants? So guys, this will be live in the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, and you can share it from there. So right now it's in our group. It's a private group. You can't share it from here, but in a couple hours, it'll be on the YouTube channel. Thank you for that question. And guys, keep the engagement going. We're going to have time for your questions. So if you're in Zoom, put your questions in chat. If you're watching this on Facebook, put your questions in comments. And for the next 24 hours, anybody that asks a question, even if you watch the recording, I'll make sure your question gets answered. So Dale, let's unpack the world today. It is the last week in April 2020. The world has gone through, well, America has gone through 30-ish days of quarantine. I have been talking about how, like, I believe that is going to change customer expectation and customer experience forever. Now, that I don't mean connecting face-to-face, human-to-human is gone. I'm just saying grandma and grandpa know what Zoom is, and it has accelerated the digital adoption and the digital mortgage. So I would love for you to unpack how you show up and I want you to kind of like, if you were talking to a C-suite, how would you show up? But also do it in a way, since 70% of our viewers are loan officers, how do you unpack this market? And I want you to unpack it from what are the problems and what are the opportunities? So
Yep.
love to hear your thoughts on that.
So let's talk about the primary problem. I don't think on this call, because, you know, we're trying to help people with sales techniques, I don't think we need to get into all of the, you know, the FICO score challenges and the process challenges. We're working through those in the mortgage industry. And at the end of the day, as originators, what we need to understand is that you don't want to try to control what you can't, instead control what you can. So, okay, your investor, your lender isn't providing you with, you know, 610 FICOs anymore. So you just got to change your game to really move towards that part of the sector of the business where there's opportunity. So you've got to be very flexible right now. But let me talk more from a consumer perspective, because I think this will be very helpful to your audience, Dave, to understand the dynamics of consumers today, because that's where it's at, and realtors. We can talk about that too. And it starts with this. There are two major fears everybody has right now. Every single human being you're going to work with today is dealing with two major fears today. The first one is that emotional fear, the fear of health and stability, and am I going to be sick? Is my family okay? It's a major fear they're dealing with. So there's an emotional element here. The second is economic. It's the financial side. It's what's going to happen with my employment. Can I afford to keep my mortgage payments? You know, what's going to happen with my property values? I mean, there is a lot of valid concerns out there today, both emotionally and economically. So if we're going to succeed in today, we need to understand that very clearly, and we need to adapt to that. Kristen Messerly, it's so funny you mentioned her earlier, because there was a recent post that she put in Housing Wire that was powerful, where she talked about how in times like this, people will move to social media pretty heavily, and they'll watch news from dawn to dusk and see what's going on, and it will take them to a very bad place. And that's what's happening a lot out there today, is that people are getting fearful and they're withdrawing, and we're seeing a lot of those things happen. So my point in all of this is this. There's two things that you need to understand in your mortgage world today. And the first one is that you've got to put relationship before everything today. Dave, you mentioned a moment ago, you're a leader in the technological side of our industry, okay? And you've done a great job with that. And technology has really just expanded dramatically, and it's going to continue to do that. But I want to say something that I've said many times in the past when I spoke at conferences, because I keep getting invited to these conferences like Ellie Mae last year, where, you know, I'm a keynote there as a sales guy, but it's a tech conference. And they're like, why is the sales guy here? It's because I understand one important thing, that human innovation is what created technology, but it's human intervention and interaction that makes it work. That's the key to it. So today, you've got access. The one beauty of today's marketplace is people are at home. Your realtors are at home. You've got more access to customers today than you've ever had before. But if you take a strictly technological approach without really tying that to relationship, you miss the human element. And Kristen talked about that in her post when she said, right now, we have a chance to really create a sense of humanity with people and help them. I believe right now that the mortgage industry, Dave, is the absolute bright spot in the entire economy right now. The stock market's all over the place. Housing could go up, could go down. We've got challenges with unemployment, but what we do have is an opportunity to help people through the low rates that are out there today, through the products and programs that we have, to put people in a much better financial position through either a refinance or through a purchase transaction where we make sure they get in a home they can afford comfortably. Because here's the fact of the matter. Today's consumer is starting to get worried about buying a home because they're worried about two things. Number one, can I afford it? Number two, what's going to happen to the value after I buy it? Well, let me address those two. You're going to have a housing payment no matter what you do. You don't want to be a renter in a marketplace like we're moving into where the economy is unstable, because renters are controlled by their landlord as to what they're going to pay. Your rent could go up exponentially in a short period of time based on supply and demand. But if you have a mortgage, you're sitting in a fixed rate, fixed term payment that you know you can afford if you've done it right. And you've worked with a counselor, an advisor, and you and I share this belief that we should never be loan officers. We should always be advocates and counselors and advisors for our customers. And part of that is making sure that we're really working with them to get them in a home they can afford. If you do that, you're creating stability for them that they won't get outside of housing. In addition to that, because we know that property values, yes, they may go down, but look at 2008 to 2010. We saw a 32% drop in the market nationally. We gained every bit of that back, plus about 18% on top of that. We're at the highest property values right now we've ever seen in U.S. history. So we're sitting in this bubble where we've got people who are fearful. They're worried. We can be that sense of humanity to help them through a mortgage transaction to improve their financial position, to put them in a better light financially, to ease some of those emotional concerns, and to really make a difference. And this all goes back to that others first mindset I talk about. Others first, which is my slogan and been my motto for a long, long time. It's what we build everything around, is based off my life verse out of the book of Philippians, chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. It says this: do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in all things, with humility, value others above yourself, looking out for their interests and not your own. That mindset today is so powerful. And when you combine relationship with technologies like Mortgage Coach, you are so separate from everybody else. You have really built in the essence of succeeding in today, because you're addressing the humanity of people and the concerns of them, and you're also solving problems for them that are first and foremost in their mind. Those two things combined, we can have a major impact on people's lives today, and we can literally be first line responders financially in today's marketplace to make a massive difference for our world, our community, and for the U.S.
Wow. So again, we just went through another 10 to 12 minutes segment, like a chapter of this interview, that if you just heard that and you just implemented that. So let's unpack that a little bit. Before I unpack it, was the article that you're referring to that Kristen did, where she talked about trauma-informed care and how the world is in fear and trauma? Is that, I think that's the article?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's funny, I'm going to pull it up in a minute, but I'm currently in the process of co-authoring an article with Kristen, and we're playing off that. So it's interesting that you saw that article and you liked it. I did too. I thought it was just like, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. So let's unpack that a little bit around Dale Vermillion's philosophies. So guys, I want you to, at the top, if you have a piece of paper, just write others first, one word, capital first. That is a hashtag that Dale uses. I recommend that you follow him on Facebook, and you brainwash yourself to others first. And then I also recommend you audit yourself. Like, I like to think that I am always thinking others first, but in preparing for this interview, I was studying and watching some of Dale's content and going, yeah, others first. Yeah, I do that all the time. And then I was like, well, yesterday I wasn't others first. So I recommend we all just self-analyze ourselves a little bit, like, because the two things that I thought of preparing for this interview is, not only is it a really powerful sales strategy and a way to create the wow, like the total cost analysis, it's an others first technology platform. But here's the other thing, guys. When you put others first, you just get this adrenaline that makes you more confident, more happy, and it fights fear. So I'd love for you to just speak on that, maybe go a little deeper on tactics. Like, okay, others first, I get it conceptually. Let's break that down. Like, what are some examples of loan officers doing others first behavior and leadership? And what are some examples where we all know that we don't all do it? What are some bad examples?
So it's really funny that, you know, in the million plus people that I've trained, I've asked originators this question, and, you know, I've done over 4,000 seminars in my career. And I've asked this question many times of the loan officers I've trained, okay? How's your relationships with your customers? I have never had, Dave, in my career, a person say, you know what, everybody hates me, I'm a schmuck, okay? And they all say, oh, it's great. Oh my gosh, my customers love me. And I go, okay. So then somebody explain to me why I see survey after survey after survey from consumers that say they can't stand sometimes the mortgage professionals. Why is that happening? It's because here's the problem. It's not that we're not the good people. It's that we confuse relationships sometimes with rapport. They're two different things. I teach this all the time. Rapport is where you might be nice to somebody, you might be helpful to somebody and friendly to somebody, and that's great. I love that. But that's not what I want you to have with your clients. That's not what I want you to have with your real estate partners. What I want you to have is true relationship. And true relationship has a prerequisite. What's the prerequisite? It's time. That's the prerequisite. So I see this a lot, Dave, where, you know, I'll work with companies and I'll ask loan officers, how long do you spend on average on a call with your customer? They go, oh, you know, 10, 15 minutes. I go, okay, stop right there. Who do you have a real relationship with? In fact, I always spell relationship, R-E-A-L-ationship. Real-ationship is how we define it. And the only way you have that is you're not going to have that in 15 minutes because you barely know enough to complete a 1003 in 15 minutes. So if you're telling me you're others first, then that means you have to know things about that person because, as I've said a million times, you can't solve what you don't understand. So how do I solve for you in a refinance your needs financially if I don't understand anything more than the fact you're looking to lower your rate? Well, everybody's looking to lower their rate. That's a normal, you know, response that every consumer has. What they're really crying out to you when they say, I want a low rate is, I need to figure out how to save money. I need to figure out how to get a payment I can afford. I need help with cash. They're telling you a lot more than I'm looking for a low rate. So what we have to do to build a relationship, others first mindset is we got to slow down. I've said this many times. If I was on my deathbed or I was at the final point of my life and somebody said, if you were to give one bit of advice to pass on to the next generation of mortgage people, what would that bit of advice be? The answer is simple: slow down. Slow down. If it takes one sale a day to close 15 loans a month, what's your hurry? Why are you rushing to get to the next lead when you haven't done the right job on the first lead? So if I'm going to be others first, that means I have to inherently know you. To know you, I have to spend time with you. By spending time with you, what happens is I break down all the walls. And now all of a sudden, I build loyalty. I build trust. I build understanding. I have better information. I can make better decisions, provide you better options, do all the things that a mortgage coach can really capitalize on because I have a better understanding of you. If you're going to be an others first type of person, you have to start from a heart of, I'm here to help others. I've said this many times. If you focus on your commissions, you won't make any money. If you focus on your customers, you'll make a ton of money. It's all about focusing on the right thing. How can I help you as my customer? And what's the key to that? Well, I got to get to know you as a human being, understand your concerns and your needs, and really dig in to say, how can I create a loan that makes really good sense for you that changes your life in a powerful way? When you do that, you establish the right kinds of relationships that create that wow factor, and you provide much better solutions than you ever did before.
So I think I may have learned this from you 21 years ago, but you just reminded me, because I remember when I learned from you, I had the Savage team, which did all this referral business, and I had this call center. And I think I remember it's like, hey, stack your leads to win and then manage call time. And if someone's not spending at least 10 minutes, they're not creating rapport. And then I think, I know that where I'm at today and what I teach is that if you don't know your borrower's three, short-term goals, like what do you want to accomplish over the next 3 to 5 years? And the question, like, how old do you want to be when your home's paid off? And based on this current situation, how old are you gonna be? Like they're long-term, like when do you want to be debt-free? When do you want to not, or have enough money in the bank to pay off your mortgage, whatever. If you're an investor, you may not want to put it in your mortgage, you may want to save it, but let's face it, most of America would rather just pay off that mortgage and be debt-free. If you don't know that, you're probably not others first. Would you go be as bold to say that every loan officer, that think of your last 5 borrowers, if you don't know their 3 to 5 year goals that real estate impacts, and you don't know what that family's goal is to be debt-free, you are not being others first.
Yeah, I mean, here's an easy, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And here's a real easy analogy to bring this into play. So I ask this question a lot of audiences. Okay, how many acquaintances do you have? People go, oh, hundreds. Okay, how many friends do you have? A few. Okay, think about this for a minute. Your friends all started as an acquaintance, every single one of them. So what happened that transitioned that into friendship? And they always give the same, well, I spent time around them and got to know them and learned to trust them. I go, okay, so why is business any different? What you want is you want professional friendships, not professional acquaintances. Because when you have a professional acquaintance, okay, they may think you're honest. They may think you're nice, but they're not loyal to you yet. Friendship and relationship drives loyalty. Loyalty is where they're willing to pay an eighth of a point more or a quarter point more to get you because you're providing better advice, you're providing better service, but more importantly, you know what? That's not even what matters the most. What matters the most to a consumer is, do you care about me and my situation? Are you trying to help my family to achieve the things we're trying to achieve? When you make that breakthrough, everything changes in the relationship. Everything changes in the transaction. You move from a transactional mindset to a relational mindset. And when that happens, the entire process of your sales is going to change. You're going to find that your customers not only now are going to end up buying from you, but they're going to refer you to all their friends, their relatives. They're going to come back to you for their next loan. You know, statistics show that the average homeowner is going to go through 9 mortgages in their lifetime. Well, I want every one of those if I'm an originator. I want to create that loan officer customer for life engagement mindset. To do that, I've got to build a true relationship that's based on an others first mindset. And I would ask everybody in your audience this question: why are you really in the mortgage business? If you're in it to make a bunch of money, that's the wrong reason. I will tell you that right now. That's not an others first mindset. I find the most wealthy people that I meet and the most successful originators are not motivated by money. They're motivated by helping people, and they make a ridiculous amount of money doing it. And you know what? God bless them for that. And the great ones share that money with people who don't have it. And they give to all kinds of causes, which, you know, that's something I've always been big about. We started a not-for-profit way back in 2006 called Mortgage Professionals Providing Hope, because we give 50% of our income as a company goes to charities every year. That's been my goal for as long as I've been in business, because we want to do things to help others. I'm not in this to make money for me. I'm in this to help my fellow man and woman to really be successful in life. So it starts by making sure I make a great mortgage loan to them to create that stability and that security and that savings they need. And then it continues by feeding into my community and helping people around me.
I love this. So guys, I'm going to try not to go too deep on the tactics to be other first, but here's the quick checklist. Know what that family's short-term goals are, know what their long-term goals are, and then give them a total cost analysis showing them that you heard them. Here are some options. Transparency, people like that. Here's the cost over time. People like that. That's how people make clear decisions. And so if you're not asking these Dale Vermillion questions, which, by the way, Dale, that's going to be my next question for you. What are some of the questions we should ask a family that would be examples of being an others first loan officer? And then show them you heard them. Like, make sure that when you give them their advice and you give them their proposal, you listen to those things. So what are some of the 3, 4, let's not go crazy and give people 20 questions, but what are some of the top questions that an others first, trained by Dale Vermillion loan officer would ask a family?
Well, here's the key to the whole game as I see it, okay? Think about a 1003, okay? It's over 130 questions. All of them are closed end. There's not a single open-ended question on the entire application anywhere. You can ask 130 questions of anybody, get all 130 answers, and build zero relationship with them. That's the problem in and of itself. It's an information gathering tool. It is not a relationship building tool. So what I teach loan officers all the time is, look, you need to ask the open questions. Okay, so Mr. Jones, look, a mortgage is the single largest, most personal financial decision most people ever make in their lifetime. You're making it for a reason. The reason is you're trying to establish stability and security for your family. So what I would like to know from you, because this is a major investment and this is a financial decision, one that can help you financially, then here's my question. What are your financial goals? What are you trying to accomplish? Don't just focus on your rate. What are you trying to accomplish through a mortgage for your family? And just let them talk. You don't have to lead the witness here. What you need to do is open up and create an opportunity for them to be able to talk with you. This again creates the wow factor. This again creates separation and differentiation from your competition, because everybody else is going from screen to screen to screen, box to box to box, drilling the borrower. Oh, yeah. It's like a boxing match. They're thumping them with question after question after question, and then they think they have a relationship when they don't. You've got to create conversation. I've always said, you want to build a conversation, not an interrogation. That's what you're trying to create. You do that by having a conversation with a customer like you would have with any human being out in a social setting, and get your head out of that, application mindset that got to get the questions out as quick as I can so I can go on to the next one and shoot them off my offers. That's a formula for disaster every time. You got to slow down, get to know your borrowers, ask them the right questions, remind them this is a financial decision. So if we're going to make a good financial decision, the more I know about you, the more I can help you with the decision. Tell me what I need to know about your future goals so I can start to build loans that make sense for that. It's really that easy.
I love that. I love that. So we have this framework we call the 4 essentials to smart mortgage decisions. And the first one is, if you want to make a smart mortgage decision, make sure whether you're buying a home or you're refinancing, you're being thoughtful about cash reserves and to go beyond qualifications. Like, I think every loan officer looks at cash reserves and talks about it from a qualification standpoint, but they don't talk about it from, do you have enough for an emergency? And do you have enough for opportunities? And that's an example of a question that after 30 days of quarantine, after millions and millions and millions and millions, and I can say that about 10 more times, of families that are unemployed, people will not think of cash reserves differently going forward in the world. So I think the question you just kind of set the table with was brilliant. And I loved, guys, he framed it. So he casted a frame. I'm looking out for your best interest. And then he asked an open-ended question. How would you frame that question? Like the cash reserve question, and knowing what we just have gone through, I think it's different than how loan officers did it. So how does an OthersFIRST Dale Vermillion loan officer talk about cash reserves and having enough money for opportunities and risk?
Well, to me, it's as simple as reminding consumers that one of the biggest mistakes they can ever make is to own a home and not have reserves to protect their family in case of an emergency, because we're all going to have them. We're all going to have that day we're going to wake up one day where something doesn't go the way we hope, whether that's a coronavirus like we're going through right now, or that's a health issue individually, or that's a layoff because of something that's happening. We've all gone through them. So if you just will ask your customers, look, think about your life to this point. Have you had situations in your life where something changed dramatically in your finances and you were worried and concerned about it? They're going to say yes every single time. And then you can respond back. Now that you have their buy-in to that, now you can go back and go, okay, so let's think about that for your mortgage loan then. One of the things that I'm a firm proponent of is you should have emergency reserves. Now, financial analysts will tell you 6 months of income. That's not realistic for the average American. I speak on radio programs all over the country about this. And I say, I would love for you to have 6 months, but the reality is I know you're probably not going to. So here's what I would say. Have 2. Have 2 months of mortgage payments is very realistic for most people. And 2 months of mortgage payments buys you 90 days of time, because you have a 30-day window on your mortgage before you go delinquent. So you've got that 30-day period plus your 2 mortgage payments. You got a 90-day window to work from. You're much safer when you do that. To me, it's about, again, caring for your customers, being others first, making sure you're helping them protect themselves, because we know that people will spend every dollar you give them if you let them. But if you guide them and coach them well, and it's called Mortgage Coach, if we coach them well, then what's going to happen is they're going to realize that we're looking out for them. We're giving really great advice. And the moment they recognize, yeah, I've had problems in the past, that's where it kicks in. You don't solve a problem unless you understand it.
Love that. I want to get one more question. And by the way, I'm just trying to put comments and answer comments in the comments down below. Someone had asked for what are the 4 essentials. I'll put a picture of that in the Facebook group in a minute. Here's another thing that I know you may be the industry's foremost expert on this. And I don't know if I was doing this before I met you, but I know that after I met you and heard you, I do this better. And every loan officer is just transaction. Like you said, they're focused on the transaction, the questions for the questions. Maybe they do one, soft goal. What's most important to you about a mortgage? But by the way, that's transaction. What's most important to you about building wealth with real estate? That's, maybe they don't have an answer for that, but now I can mentor them and become their mortgage coach. But number four, number four principle of making smart mortgage decisions is always look for strategies to pay it off faster or to reduce my interest cost. And the idea of, like, let's just say it's a refi market, because it is. And if rates go to 2, it's going to be an even bigger refi market. It makes a lot of sense that when you show refis, you show all of the tangible benefits of that. And the monthly savings for 1 month is one tangible benefit. The interest rate is 2 tangible benefits. But always showing, hey, what if we prepaid that mortgage? That's a third benefit over 5 years. And what would it do over the life of the loan? How much faster would you pay it off? That's a fourth tangible benefit. And so you're a master at that. How do you guide the conversation to help loan officers so that when they do show, hey, refi, invest the difference, look at the benefit, how do you do that so they're doing it in an others first way?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. Dave, you know me for a long time, and you know that my faith has always been really important to me, and I drive a lot of my thinking around scriptures. There's a scripture I love. Romans 13:8 says this: "Owe nothing to anybody except your obligation to love one another." Think about that for a minute. Isn't that what we all want in life? Wouldn't we all love to be debt-free so that we actually wouldn't be worrying about our debt? We could actually be worrying about people instead of that. It's the old I owe, so off to work I go. That's where most humans and most Americans are at today. Well, I am such a proponent. And yes, 21 years ago when we met, this was a major thing that I focused on when I met you, was the importance and the power of term reduction, because it creates freedom. That's what it does. Well, all you have to do is remind people of one simple thing. When people retire, their income typically is going to drop by 1/2 to 2/3 in America. That's common. So the question is simple. Okay, let's think about your future. If one of the things you talked about is you want to retire someday and you want to live this golden age lifestyle, how are you going to do it if you still have a mortgage payment, but your income is dropped by half? You're going to become a slave to your mortgage in your retirement. That's not what you're looking for. So I think it's a process of just getting people to think beyond today, beyond the rate, beyond the payment, and think about what is this going to look like 20, 30 years down the road, and where do I want to get to? And when you do that, they buy into it so fast, you don't have to do much selling. All you're now doing is you're helping them look at ways they can get there and helping them work through it. The bottom line is consumers just don't understand that many times shorter term loans don't cost that much more than the longer term loan. If you ask the average consumer, what's the difference in the payment between a 15 and a 30, they're going to tell you double. And it's not double. We know that in the mortgage business. So it's educating them to show them the options, reminding them of where they want to be through that relationship, and then providing a solution based on that. That's exactly what you do. And what happens is you're not selling anything. The customer sells themselves. They are literally loving what you're saying, and you're now positioning yourself as different from your competition. Is very powerful.
So guys, imagine a loan officer that asked the question that Dale started with, a loan officer that talked about cash reserves differently in a way that they cared, and then a loan officer that got them to look at the net tangible benefit of a refinance beyond just the monthly savings. Here's the deal. That family would never forget you. Like, that would be the best financial experience they ever had. And you would not be just competing with other loan officers. You would probably kick butt on financial planners that they've talked to, CPAs that they plan on. When you look at the net tangible benefit of, hey, let's refi, or let's do debt consolidation, and then let's prepay it. And then remember, loan officers, don't go away. Like, part of your job is to give them the advice, visualize it so it's clear, and then you do an annual review. So guys, think about this. What Dale's saying, 1 client commitment a day by 11 o'clock. Give them your time, ask them questions, give them a total cost analysis, do an annual review. By the way, if you don't do annual reviews, but you say you do, you show up differently with the family. Like, if you actually deliver this, you will show up with a different level of energy and a different level of consistency. So just saying you do things that you don't do might help a little bit, but it doesn't change your career. So So anyways, bro, this has been incredible. We're 40 minutes into this. We got 20 more minutes. I think we could stop and say we delivered massive value to the community. Everybody, I want to remind you, if you have questions for Dale, we have time. I've got more questions, and we'll definitely fill up these 20 minutes. But if you had a question that you wanted me to ask him right now, I would put that as a priority over the questions I have. So Dale, let's transition. So I think we've unpacked it. Like any loan officer that's on this call, they've got some really high level strategic value, and they've got some tactical value. So we've killed it. Let's talk into a producing branch manager who not only needs to lead by example, but they need to get their loan officers to do some of these things. They're like, God, my loan officers will only do this. So if you don't mind, just speak to that voice of the producing branch manager right now on Dale Vermillion, OthersFIRST strategies on how they could be and should be serving their team right now.
Yeah, so great question, Dave. And here's the first thing I would say. And I've had the great privilege to train tens of thousands of leaders around the country, and I remind them of one very important thing from the very start, and it's this: your salespeople aren't going to be others first until you're others first. It's that lead by example, like you just mentioned a moment ago. So I would remind leaders to do a gut check on: are you really communicating to your people that you're in this for their success? And if they know that, they're going to start to respond in kind back to that. So a couple of things that I would say about today's marketplace. I'm going to go back to the isolation that people are in today with social distancing and stay-at-home orders and all these things. We've been isolated from each other. There's a lot of people working at home that didn't work at home before this. That's a different way to manage. In these kinds of times, you've got to over-communicate with your people as a leader. And what I mean by that is, where you used to email them or text them, you'll want to call them now, because here's the fact of the matter: they're struggling with the same emotional and economic concerns that consumers are. You want their head in the game. You want their attitude positive. You reflect that through your positive attitude. So as OthersFIRST leaders, there's a couple things that I recommend. One is have a daily meeting with your people during these times where you're Zooming together with them. You're getting on a Zoom meeting, and every morning you're starting them with the right mindset, positive attitude. Tell a funny story, give a great inspirational message, something that will get them in the right mindset. Make sure that they're doing, and make sure they've got their goals set for that day as a leader. And then always make sure that your focus is not how much money we're going to make, but how many people are we going to help today? How are we going to help our customers and our partners? Let's not forget about the real estate partners. Look, the real estate industry is under massive stress right now. Real estate agents are at home right now. They're easier to contact than they've ever been before. You can have more relationship building opportunities than you've ever had before. Prospecting has never been easier than it is right now. So all those realtors you wanted to work with, this is your opportunity to get them on the phone and actually talk to them, because they're probably disenchanted with their other lenders right now because of changes in the marketplace, and they may give you an opportunity. But it's all about that others first mindset. It's about, what is our why? What is our purpose? What drives us every day to be the best we can possibly be? If you can define that with your team and you can model that as a leader, what will happen is your people will just work intuitively in the way you've taught them. They will do this. I've said this many times. If I were to give one tip to a leader to be successful, it's this: just replicate yourself. You became a leader because you were probably the best loan officer on the team. That's why you got promoted. So what I want you to do is create 10 of you, or 20 of you, or 30 of you. How do you do that? By coming out of your shell and actually coaching people and leading people and educating people and training people and motivating people on a daily basis, and having an OthersFIRST mindset that all I'm interested in is making my people successful, because if they're all successful, I don't have to worry about my success. It's a given, it's an automatic, it's a guarantee.
I love that. So what time frame should a producing branch manager, and we've got some of the biggest, most successful producing branch managers in the country that actually will probably listen to this call. Jeremy Forcier will be listening to this. He's going to close 60 loans this month. I interviewed him yesterday. But how do they time block? Okay, I'm a producer that's got to achieve whatever my business goals are. Not everybody's a $100 million producer. It might be 10, might be 20, 30 million, 50 million, whatever my goal is. How do you recommend they they play offense and defense with their team. Any Dale Vermillion wisdom?
So again, I think the key is how you start your day. I can't say that enough times. Like, if there's one thing I've learned that's one of the most important principles in the sales and leadership business is start the day right. So if you're committing as a leader, even with those massive pipelines, if you can commit 15 minutes in the morning to your team to exude your positive attitude, exude your knowledge and wisdom on them, make sure you're checking in with them to make sure that they're ready for the day, they're prepared, they're doing things right. I mean, I'll give you a quick story. I'm doing. Last week, I did a series of 5 webinars or Zoom meetings for a client of mine who asked me to do this with their sales team. There was like 60 people on this thing. I did a half hour for 5 straight days. And I noticed this one guy up in the little square corner that the first day he's laying in his bed at 8:30 in the morning with his blanket up to his chin. The next day he's in his robe. Finally, the second day I said, okay, hey, Ethan, nice robe, by the way. Got to ask you a question. Would you go to the office like that? He goes, heck no, I'd get fired. I go, then why are you working like that today? You see, that little bit of just having that visual made sure that loan officer, the next day he was dressed to the nines, ready to go, working the way you ought to be working. So if you can give that 15 minutes in the morning and then just stay in touch through the course of the day, just periodically with your people, it's the whole thing that I've said a million times. Presence drives performance. Presence being Presence. If you're present with your people, they will perform. If you just let them do what they want, then you know what? You're having no influence on them. You're really not leading them the way you need to. So it doesn't take hours out of your day. It takes minutes out of your day. It's just calculating to use the minutes wisely and powerfully. Prepare for your meetings in the morning in advance, and you will crush it with your teams.
Wow. So if someone who's listened to this would take a note and put that presence equals performance, or exactly how Dale said that, put that in comments down below. That was so powerful. And just thinking about some of the top producers, I'm going to be interviewing Hunter Markowart tomorrow. And for 8 years, he's been doing these Sunday thoughts. Now, Hunter does 160 million a year in volume, complete monster. He's a coach. He coaches loan officers. But every Sunday, he's been doing his Sunday thoughts. And I know Jeremy, every morning, he is either creating a video or some type of update for his team. So for all you managers and leaders, hopefully you got a good reminder there and a way to kind of upgrade. So I've got one more question, and then I'm going to go to the audience for questions. But before I ask that, I heard you say, hey, I was recently helping a company, and this is what I was doing. Obviously, you're not speaking on a lot of live stages right now. How do you want to engage and add value? Because I want my community of loan officers, like if there's branch managers or heads of production that are watching this, I want to know, like, how could they leverage you right now, and what kind of engagements are you doing in the marketplace? By the way, everybody, we put Dale's contact information in all chat, and we put his social links. If you got value from this conversation, the best thing you could do is subscribe to him on his channels, LinkedIn, Facebook. Go to Dale and say, I'm going to follow this guy. That's a thank you for the time he spent with us today. So please make sure you guys engage with him on all the social channels. Links are down below. So how can folks, how do you want to get engaged today?
I appreciate you asking that question, Dave. And you're right. I'm not speaking on live stages right now, and I travel all over the country crazily doing seminars like crazy. But I made a really smart business decision 5 years ago. I hired a guy in who is my chief operating officer, a young millennial, brilliant, smart as a tack guy, and then built a team around him. One of them including my son, who's just a brilliant young, technology graphics guy. And we have taken everything that we've done, and now we have online e-learning training that we provide to the mortgage community, so they can learn tons of techniques from us, from me, through online classes. We do live simulcasts. I have a studio in my office, so I can do live simulcasts where I'm actually doing seminars, but they're live just like a normal seminar. I can see them, they can see me, but I'm in Florida and they're wherever they're at. So we're doing a lot of that. I'm doing webinars like crazy. So today's technology allows us to do everything that I do without ever having to leave the house, to be honest with you, or the office. So we've got complete training programs, leadership, sales, customer service, operations. We've done all of that over the 25 years, all of it based on strategy and technique and best practices, and all of that's available through our website and through our online offerings.
Awesome. So DaleVermillion.com. Get some, guys. What I know is that the things that Dale teaches, and he has a very unique style that creates a different level of accountability, are the things that will make you a great mortgage coach. Like, I'm with you, Dale. Like, technology has changed the world and it's valuable, but you know what's more valuable than that? Leadership. Leadership kicks ass on technology every time. I have all my best adoption clients. Yes, they rolled out Mortgage Coach, but it's because of the leadership that went into getting adoption that made that technology work. Because if you don't have that, it's not going to work. So your loan officers will show up better before Mortgage Coach. They'll ask better questions. They'll be others first. And then when the TCA is delivered, it'll deliver 3x the result. So, okay. So my last question is, I ask this question to different people, different ways, but I want to know, like, everybody's talking about the modern originator. Like, what is the modern originator? And I'd love to hear your high level, like, a modern originator is. And then I would love some tactical things that people can go, oh, and I've got anything that you didn't put on that I think should be put on it. I'll give my 2 cents. But I want to know, what does that mean to Dale Vermillion? And when you're having conversations, what's the modern loan officer?
I think the modern loan officer, if you really want to be successful, has to have an old school mentality with a new school capability. I think it's combining the old with the new. I think it's combining the best technologies. You have to have that today because consumers demand it. You can't say I'm not going to have technology and succeed, because you won't. You have to have it because it creates ease, efficiency, transparency, all the things that it's designed for. But what it can never, ever do or replace is the old-fashioned relationship. The old-fashioned, as the Japanese say, head-to-head, knee-to-knee approach to business. You've got to combine those two things. So I think the modern loan officer going forward is the one that really has the technologies that provide online applications, online tools like Mortgage Coach that can provide great advice to your clients, but they don't rely on those tools alone to succeed in their business, because if that was the case, we don't need loan officers. We can digitize everything then. If you think that's the future of the loan officer, then there will be no loan officers. I believe that's never going to happen. I believe consumers, because a mortgage is the single largest financial decision, they might buy something on Amazon for $30 or $300. They're not going to buy for $300,000. That needs somebody to walk them through. That is a confidant, a consultant, an advisor that can help them understand that. If you can combine old school relationship, and maybe that's why I've made it 37 years in the business, because I'm an old school guy, and combine that with new school technologies, you are deadly. You are the best in class, and you will succeed forever.
Love that answer. So guys, I'm going to ask you to write it down, even though I've said this multiple times on interviews, but I want you to write down WACD, big capital letters. Write it down. And Dale mentioned Amazon. If you were a specialty retailer, and no one's done it better than that, the Nordstrom's, you have obsessed over WACD for a decade, what Amazon can't do. And so if you're watching this, you're probably a referral-based local mortgage professional that makes a living by being the expert in that local market. And here's the deal, guys. Not only do you need to do what Amazon can't do, you need to do what they can do. So yes, you need to use technologies like Zoom now. If you've got a link called the Rocket Mortgage, Rocket kicked off the arms race in the mortgage industry with push a button and get a mortgage. Well, guys, if you do not have a link, and that's part of how you start the application with the family, or that's part of your conversation, you're not modern. And if you're not giving that link to everybody, you're not modern. But to Dale's point, if you're not doing it in a family first way, like, I'm giving you the link not to get information, but I've asked you all these questions, so I know you, and now you get the link. You're a modern loan officer. So to me, it's use your CRM, not weekly or daily, but use your CRM hourly. If you're not using it hourly, you're probably not a modern mortgage professional. If You're not using Mortgage Coach to deliver a TCA. You're not a mortgage coach, modern loan officer. What are some other things that you just think delineate, you've added to the list, like if you don't know your family's goals and you haven't asked them questions beyond the transaction, you're not a modern loan officer. What about things like you're seeing a lot of distributed retail leaders say, okay, we want our loan officers to be referral based, but they need to go customer first. So does a modern loan officer have to have, okay, I've got my referral for my realtors, but I also have my consumer first strategies? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, because the reason the realtor gave you the business in the first place is because he wanted his customers or her customers to talk to you. That was the whole reason why they referred them. I mean, if I go out and I meet with a realtor and I say, look, I want to work with you as a partner, we're going to provide the best service, they're probably going to say to you, am I going to get you? It's the same for you and I, Dave, in our businesses. Like when they call our company, they're calling because they probably want me to come to do the speaking. And if I don't, then they may not have the same requirements or the same satisfaction level at the end. So you've got to be able to not only really treat those partners well, but be able to at least have connection with that consumer so that they're getting the expert when they get that. You can hand that off to an LOA, and that's fine. And you should if you're doing high volume. But don't put all of the relationship onus on the back of your LOAs when you're the one who established a relationship with your partners. Make sure that you're building both a partner first and customer first, others first mindset with everybody. You put those three, that's a lot of firsts, I realize, but you put those three together and you know what? You're going to be so successful. It's unbelievable.
So I just got a text question and I'm going to close with this question. It's from a head of production. And they're saying that there's never been a bigger gap between the haves and the have-nots. Like our top producers with databases are like killing it. They're having double their best year ever, double PBs. But we still have loan officers that they're not struggling as bad as they were, but we still have struggling loan officers, even in this refi market. So rates, let's say they're going to 2.5. I want you to you don't have to give the script, and I'm not looking for a magic bullet, but to any loan officer that's looking for some loans right now, what would be a sequence or talking points that if they were going to call someone else's past clients, they're going to call their friends and family. If it was a new loan officer getting in the business today, and they were going to call people on their who they were going to invite to their wedding, how would Dale Vermillion train people to generate leads, knowing the market dynamics at hand?
Today is simple. I opened with it, Dave, when I said that there's two fears that everybody has. They're emotional and economic. I think what you need to do is you need to call everybody you know right now, and you need to ask them how they're doing in this marketplace and what are their fears financially, and then solve them for them. That's really all you have to do. You don't have to be fancy. You don't need to talk about your rates. Rate doesn't matter. I've taught that for 25 years. The rate is what you pay for the mortgage. The benefits are what you get from the mortgage. And that's what consumers care about. So what you need to focus on today is just really talking to people with a sense of humanity and others first mindset that says, look, I'm calling because I'm concerned about you and I care about you, and I want to know how are you doing and how can I help you today financially, because the mortgage industry is the bright spot of the economy right now, and I want to help you get in a better position. You'll get more applications you'll know what to do with, and you'll establish relationship from the very start.
Boom, mic drop, guys. So you got a ridiculous amount of ideas to improve your conversion. You got a ridiculous amount of ideas to improve as a human being. And then you guys just got a great sequence to go generate some leads. So if you're new in the business, that's the script. Those are the talking points. If you got value from today's call, guys, give us a like wherever this is at, whether it's in our Facebook group, whether it's on YouTube. Most importantly, from an others first perspective, like his stuff. Like, go connect with Dale. That is the best way to say thank you for any value you got today. Dale Vermillion, I hope this is not the last time I get to interview you in the mortgage coach community. And I really appreciate the time and just the love you put in today's call, man. I appreciate it.
Well, Dave, I appreciate you asking me, and this won't be the last time. And thank you for all that you do within the industry. And, it's a great time for us leaders that have been doing this for a long time to get together and help people as much as we can. So I'm honored to be here. Appreciate the invite, and look forward to working with you for hopefully many, many more years to come. We're still young.
Oh, dude,
I know.
bro, I'm living to be 120. I mean, I'm like playing the game,
There you go.
and I am just getting in my prime. So I'm having fun,
I
brother.
love it.
Well, hey, little virtual knuckles. Hopefully we can do
Yeah.
that in person one of these days. And take care, everybody. This is a wrap. We'll see you next week. Remember, I'm going to be interviewing Hunter Markowitz tomorrow, and it's going to be like a 30-minute in Mortgage Coach Facebook group. Keep an eye on it. I'm also going to be doing a live with a top realtor Glenn Bill, at 10 o'clock Pacific. Check it out. Take care, everybody.
God bless, guys.